theology. We're going to be learning from Hillel the elder, the one who is famous for being the most patient of men. And let's jump into it. So in preface, the custom in Chabad and in various other communities as well is that it's a worldwide custom, or most part, it's a very widespread custom, that in the 6 Shabbats between Passover and Shavuot, we read every week a chapter of Ethics of Our Fathers, 6 Shabbats in between, and we have 6 chapters of Ethics of Our Fathers, so it works out very well. And then there is also a custom among many communities that we continue that throughout the summer until Rosh Hashanah. One of the reasons for that is because summer is often a time where people are more lax ethically and morally, and therefore it's a time to add, we have longer Shabbat afternoons, and so instead of just lounging around, we spend our time on Shabbat afternoon learning from Ethics of Our Fathers. So we're going to start with the blessing.
Ethics of Our Fathers, is that a text or what is it?
That's a very good question. So as you'll notice, let's do this. So start with the blessing that we make before we learn Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al divrei Torah. I'm just looking on the shelf to see where we have our book of the Mishnah. Here. So, this is the Mishnah. The Mishnah is called the six orders of the Mishnah because it's split into 6 categories. So in the first book we have 2. This is split up into 3 books because they put 2 into each book. That's just because of the printing. So you have the first one is Zraim and Moed. The first one being Zraim would be everything that has to do with agriculture. The second order of the Mishnah has to do with everything having to do with pertaining to holidays. The third one is everything to do with marriage and women. The fourth one is everything to do with damages and tort and disputes. The fifth one is everything to do with consecrated objects. And the sixth one is all to do with purity and impurity.
Okay, what's then Gemara?
Very good question. The Gemara is all the explanations and discussions surrounding the Mishnah.
And together the Mishnah and the Gemara explain the top.
Yeah. So the word Talmud and Gemara in Jewish literature are interchangeable. The reason why we started using the word Gemara is because they banned the word Talmud. So Talmud refers to the analysis, the back and forth, the questioning, the debating, and all of that conversation. There's a lot of that in the Gemara. The word Gemara means tradition that has been passed down from generation to generation. This is a fact that my teacher taught me. We also have a lot of that in the Gemara. So in general, the Talmud was looked at among Jewish literacy as the book of the debate. So that's why they called it majority after the Talmud, because the Talmud describes that analysis of learning one fact from another and debating and hashing it out and having these conversations. So that's why we referred to this entirety of the work as the Talmud. But then when the censorship came along and they didn't like the word Talmud, so we weren't allowed to use the word Talmud, so they changed it to the word Gemara.
I kind of related question then. How does the Haftorah relate to the Torah?
That is a very good question. I'm going to make a blessing on the tea. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'ata li'avivar.
I'm still going to read the text of the Haftorah. So I don't remember what the relationship is.
It's a very good question. The question was, where does the Haftorah come in, and what's the relationship between the Haftorah and the Torah reading? The answer is as follows. At a certain time, the authorities that forbade Torah study and forbade Torah reading on Shabbat because they knew that the Jewish people have a very strong tradition and it all connects back to the Torah. So if they delete the Torah, so to speak, then they've got us. So I think it was on pain of death if they were caught reading the Torah on Shabbat. So what they did is they took passages from the scripture, not from the 5 books of Moses, but from the writings and the prophets, and took sections that are connected to the weekly Torah portion and would read those instead, because the rest of the 24 books of scripture were not under ban, only the 5 books of Moses. So they would read to make sure that we didn't forget the concept of reading the Torah every Shabbat. They would read various different texts that had to do either with the time of the year or with the Torah portion. Then, once we were allowed to read the Torah again, we decided not to abandon that tradition, but rather to keep that tradition alive. So we still read the Haftorah till today. However, the one who Okay.
Good morning.
So the one who gets the Haftorah will first get an aliyah in the Torah, so that everybody should know that the Torah is the Torah. The 5 books of Moses are the most important, and people wouldn't err and say, oh, we have 7 aliyahs in the Torah and we have 1 aliyah in the Haftorah. The Haftorah is just as important as the Torah. The 24 books of scriptures are all very holy and all very pure, yet the 5 books of Moses is what was dictated by Hashem to Moses on the mountain. Therefore, the one who reads the Haftorah first gets an aliyah in the Torah, which will usually be the last few sentences of the 7th aliyah.
So get back to the Torah follow.
Oh. So, most of the laws in the Mishnah pertain either to the strict letter of the law as it pertains to our service of God, how do we do the mitzvahs properly, or the laws of how does God want us to treat one another by law. So if I steal from you, what happens to me? For example, if I steal from you and I'm caught and I don't admit it, then I have to pay double. That's one of the laws in the Torah. So those laws are going to be in here. There is one. So, okay, well, 1 second. We have the Mishnah. The Mishnah is broken down into 6 sections. Each section covers a general topic. Then each one of those is further broken down. So, for example, the easiest way to do this is going to be the Tractate of Moed, which means the Tractate of Set Times. Do we have here just a quick list over here? It'll be easier. Here. No. Okay. Let's see over here. Yeah. Beautiful list. Okay, so the laws of the second section of the Mishnah, the second order of the Mishnah, contains all the laws having to do with set times. So the first one is the most obvious one that comes every week, Shabbat. All the laws of Shabbat. The second one is the laws of Eruv. The third one is the laws of Passover. The fourth one is the laws of the half shekel that had to be given. The next one is the tractate called Yom Kippur. The next one is the tractate of Sukkot. The next tractate pertains to the laws of Muktzah. What happens if an egg was born on one day of the holiday? You're allowed to eat it the next day, or is it considered set aside from before Yom Tov, and therefore you wouldn't be allowed to eat it? The next one is the laws of Rosh Hashanah, the laws of fast days, the laws of Purim, the laws regarding death, and the laws regarding the sacrifices that a person had to bring when they would come, and the laws of coming to the temple 3 times a year. And then each one of those is called a tractate. And each tractate is further broken down into chapters and mishnahs. Each paragraph, as it were, would be a mishnah, and then the plural of all the mishnahs together would be also called the mishnah. One of the tractates in the order of damages is a tractate called Avos, which is Ethics of Our Fathers, Teachings of Our Fathers, which is not as much a legal treatise as it is for the one looking to go beyond the letter of the law. So Avot is the chapter known as, this is the ethical teaching that it is not law, it is beyond the letter of the law, and that is part of what triggers a lot of the Rebbe's questions. Well, why this is something so basic, why you consider it beyond the letter of the law? And then the Rebbe goes into a long discussion. So I hope that explains a little bit of the background. Awesome. L'chaim. Okay. Section A. Page number 1. Says the Rebbe. For us, it's all about love. Says the Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe writes in his Siddur regarding the study of Pirkei Avos on Shabbat afternoons that some follow this practice throughout all the Shabbats of the summer. Indeed, our Rebbes followed the custom of studying Pirkei Avot on every Shabbos of the summer. Since they did so openly and publicly, it is clear that the practice of studying Pirkei Avot, Ethics of Our Fathers, throughout all the Shabbats of the summer is not limited only to select individuals. Rather, anyone who wishes can be among those. Some follow this practice of studying Ethics of Our Fathers on all the Shabbats of the summer. On this Shabbat, the Shabbat following Shavuot, which is also this Shabbat, the study of Pirkei Avot begins again from the start with the study of the first chapter. So what happens is, as you get closer to Rosh Hashanah, sometimes, depending on how the years work out, sometimes there'll be 18 weeks. Could there be 18 weeks between, or 12 weeks, I'm thinking. No. 4, 8, 12. I think there's, yeah, so sometimes there are 16 weeks, sometimes there are 18 weeks between Shavuot and Rosh Hashanah, and it works out perfectly. But sometimes there's 16 or 15 or 17.
Usually in October, right?
It depends on the year. This year it's going to be in September. So we have a bit of May, we have June, July, and August, and half of September.
So between 14.
Somewhere around there. So if it's 18 weeks, then it fits perfectly. But sometimes it'll be less than that. So what we do is we'll double up chapters at the end. So let's say the last 2 weeks we'll do 2 chapters instead of 1. So that way we'll finish it before Rosh Hashanah. Okay. In this chapter, chapter 1, Hillel's teaching regarding love for one's fellow Jew appears in Mishnah 12. Hillel said, "Be among the students of Aaron, love peace and pursue peace, love the creations and draw them closer to the Torah." This idea is especially connected to the holiday we just had, Shavuot. In the Tikkun Leil Shavuot, so we didn't really discuss this much, but there is a format of religious works to be read on Shavuot night. It contains selections from the 5 books of Moses, selections from all 24 scriptures, selections from the Mishnah, selections from the Zohar. So in the Tikkun Leil Shavuot, there is a teaching from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai from the Zohar on our Torah portion. Rabbi Shimon rejoiced and said, "O God, I heard of you and was afraid." That is a verse. There, fear is appropriate. But for us, it depends on affection. As it is written, "You shall love the Lord your God," and it is written, "Because the Lord's love for you," and it is written, "I have loved you," and so on. We actually discussed this in one of our Shabbat sermons a few weeks ago. So that's what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai writes in the Zohar, and this is quite astonishing. Habakkuk, which is one of the prophets, said, "Oh God, I heard of you and was afraid." And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, no, for us it all depends on love. So this relates to the broader idea of love for one's fellow Jew, the theme of Hillel's teaching. Be among the students of Aaron, because these two loves, love for God and love for a fellow Jew, are entirely one. Following this teaching, be among the students of Aaron, there are two additional teachings of Hillel, Mishnah 13 and 14. So altogether, we have three Mishnahs that are attributed to Hillel. So let's read from here. We're going to read 12. Are you going to read all of them? We're going to read 12, 13, and 14. Chaim, would you like to read for us source number 1, together with the explanation of the Bartanura?
Hillel and Shammai received from him. Hillel said, "Be among the students of Aaron. Love peace and pursue peace. Love the creations that draw them closer to Torah. Be among the students of Aaron." About Debrei Natan explains how Aaron expresses love for peace. When Aaron observed people quarreling, he would approach each one without their fellow's knowledge. "Look, your friend is very regretful and beating himself up over what happened," Aaron would say. "He asked me to approach you for forgiveness." Then the friends would embrace. How did he draw this closer to Torah? When he knew someone had sinned, he would befriend them, and that person would become ashamed. "If this pious man knew what I have done, he would distance himself from it," they would say. This led to them repenting. This is what the prophet testifies about. In peace and equity, he went with me, and he brought back many from iniquity.
Thank you very much. So that is the first teaching with an explanation of what does it mean that Aaron would love peace and pursue peace. Matzcha David, would you like to read for us Mishnah 13 together with the Bartanura's explanation?
He would also say, "One who advances his name destroys his name. One who does not increase diminishes. One who does not teach is deserving of death, and one who makes personal use of the crown of Torah shall perish."
Wow, that's a lot tougher than
Yeah,
the first Mishnah.
I think so.
Okay, let's see what the Bartanura explains.
One who advances, shall I read it?
Mhm.
One who advances his name, a person who extends his name far by way of authority and lordship, will quickly lose his name, since lordship buries those who have it. One who does not increase in his study of the Torah diminishes. What they actually learned will diminish, that is, will be forgotten. Some read this to mean they will die before their time. One who does not teach. This is more severe than one who does not add to their studies. Thus they deserve death. One who makes personal use of the crown, one who makes use of the crown of Torah, like a person uses his tools, will perish and leave the world. Some explain Tagas, crown, to be the initials of Talmud Gavra, Harina, the student of another man, as it is forbidden to take service from students that are not his students. I have heard another explanation. One uses the Targum, meaning to say one who makes use of God's explicit name perishes and is lost, as he does not have a share in the world to come.
Wow. Okay. That's very, very strong word. And then we have a very famous teaching. Zalman, would you like to read for us Mishnah 14 together with the explanation?
He would say, "If I am not for myself, who is for me? And when I am for myself, what am I? If not now, when?"
Can I interject for a second?
Go ahead.
That's a Pirkei Avot, right?
Mm-hmm.
The one that I just read, I'm reading it, trying to digest what it said. That's kind of a harsh explanation.
It's a very harsh
I
explanation.
mean, it's like, I remember Pirkei Avot touching bases with the fact that if you don't study Torah, you could study Torah for personal gain too, but you can't benefit. It's as long as there's a connection between you and Hashem. It's not so much the Torah is there for the Torah is created for you to begin with, so you can take pleasure in studying it. But in that sense, it's okay to have personal gain. If you feel you get satisfaction by studying it, and you have that connection, then that's the right approach.
I love that. I love that. We're gonna get in. The Rebbe is gonna explain
Okay, yeah.
these Mishnahs, but you're right. It's a striking the difference. It's the first one and the third one seem to be very beautiful, poetic
Yeah.
instances, and then that middle Mishnah throws a sledgehammer at you.
Yeah,
So we're gonna explain a little bit.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, good.
If I am not for myself, if I do not obtain merit for myself, who will obtain merit for me? When I am for myself, and even if I have obtained merit for myself, what is this merit and what is it worth compared to what I am obliged to do? If not now, in this world. When, since after death, it is impossible to obtain merit any longer. Another explanation, if not now, in the days of youth, when, less than the days of old age, I will see.
Okay. Page number 5 says the Rebbe, why in Aramaic? These three teachings of Hillel are differentiated from each other. Two of them, the first and the third, are written in Hebrew, while the middle one is written in Aramaic. Why is this so? Moreover, Hillel's middle teaching, which was written in Aramaic, one who seeks his name loses his name, etc., is not only different from these other two, it differs from all the other Mishnahs in the tractate of it, which are all written in Hebrew. This is the only teaching that was written in Aramaic. Almost the only teaching that is written in Aramaic. Ben Bagbag and Ben Heihei were converts. They have great names, don't they? Ben Bagbag and Ben Heihei.
It all sounds like a couple of Sesame Street characters.
I was gonna say, it sounds like cat singing. You know, it's fun of like cat singing is the old style jazz from the 30s.
Yeah,
Cat Calloway.
great, great street names. Ben Bagbag and Ben Heihei. Okay, there is one other Mishnah in Avos that is written in Aramaic, the teaching of Ben Bagbag and the teaching of Ben Heihei. Joan and Susie, are you there? Do you have the text up in front of you?
Yeah, I do, Rabbi. I do.
Would you like to read for us source number 2? This is
Okay.
from chapter 5, Mishnah 21.
Ben Bagbag would say to delve and delve into it, the Torah, for all is in it. Be with it, grow old and worn in it. Do not budge from it, for there is nothing better. Then Heil would say, according to the pain is the gain.
Okay. So,
What is Bagbag? I mean, I never heard of this.
now he's
Ben
one of the
Bag-
sages of the Mishnah. We have some out there. Should I grab a box? Oh, there you go. Okay. No. The tissue. If you need another one, just let me. Yeah, they were sages from the times of the Mishnah. So the Rebbe gives a very simple explanation for why the language of this Mishnah differs from the other Mishnahs in Avos, and that is Ben Bagbag and Ben Heihei, page number 6, were converts. As the commentators know, this is hinted to in their names. Ben Heihei alludes to him being considered the son of Abraham and Sarah, to whose name God added the letter Hey. Likewise, Ben Bagbag has the numerical value of Hey, Beis and Gimel together is also 5. It follows logically that their first Torah teachings immediately after their conversion were said in Aramaic. These teachings were recorded in the Mishnah in that language because one is obligated to repeat a teaching in the language that you heard it from your teacher. Okay. So now we understand why this Mishnah was taught in Aramaic, because they were converts and Aramaic would have been their first language, and that was the language they spoke. But this explanation does not apply to Hillel. Not only he was not a convert, he was of distinguished lineage from the tribe of Judah, descendants of King David. He even served as Nasi, the head of the Sanhedrin. Why would his middle teaching be taught in Aramaic?
Because they wanted everyone to understand it, not just the elite students.
Okay. I would challenge that, though. What would my challenge be?
Tell me, they're telling.
My challenge would be that if there's one that he wants to disseminate to the masses, I think it would be the one about love and how important it is to love a fellow Jew. or the one about how important it is to grab mitzvahs up in your youth, because once you die, then you can't get mitzvahs anymore.
Well, the middle one was,
And the middle one was very harsh and brimstone, so likely what your
maybe,
I have a good explanation. He wrote it in Aramaic because he didn't want the Sunday school teachers to know it. That was mean.
what maybe felt fear is a greater motivator in the masses than love and compassion.
Could be in those days, yeah.
Don't kill your neighbor, it's the wrong thing to do. Rather, don't kill your neighbor or we're gonna cut your head off.
Fair enough. To go on a tangent here, I didn't start with a joke today, but in Australia, they actually take road safety seriously. In order to get your license, you have to have a log of 120 hours of driving. In it, you have to have a certain amount of night driving, a certain amount of rain driving, a certain amount of parking practice. And they audit. I have a friend who got audited. And you have to write the time you started, the time you finished, the odometer when you started, the odometer when you finished. Very intense.
Just for simple personal license. Not
To
a-
get your license. Yeah.
So,
Not
I-
even a commercial license.
Mm-hmm.
so with the learner's permit.
Yeah. Once you get your learner's permit,
Wow.
you have to have it's a 120-hour program. It could be they shortened it recently to maybe 80 hours or something. But it's an intense program.
Wow.
And to get your L's and then your provisional, you have 2 stages of provisional license, and then you get the. In America, it's a joke. I have friends who, when yeshiva in New York, they used to fly down to Florida for the weekend to get a license. And they get the permit and then the license on the same day. Everything all good.
Yeah, well, you get your learner's permit at 16 in 6 months or whatever.
Yeah. So when people ask me to identify the difference, to quantify the difference, like in one sentence, between the American road safety and the Australian view of road safety, there's one that about wearing seatbelt, right? So in America, what do you have? These cute signs: click it or ticket, right all over. Click it or ticket. Or today they have new ones: buckle up, it's the law.
Yeah.
In Australia, when they were running an ad at the time for seatbelt safety, seatbelt awareness, there was a huge full-size billboard with a picture of a guy flying through the windshield, and in big block letters it said, "Buckle up or die." So that's the difference in approach between American road safety and Australian road safety. Anyways, I digress. Okay. The explanation is as follows. The particular teachings chosen to be in this tractate are selected from among many statements of each of the sages. These were specifically selected as they are reflective of significant events and experiences in the sages' lives, or because they have some connection with their name and the like. So we know that all the sages of that era were great sages who taught lots of Torah in their lifetime. So why are these specifically chosen and curated from the tens of thousands of statements that have been made by all these great rabbis over this 500-year period? Is because, either there's a connection of the Torah teaching to their name, or something that reflects their personality or their personal lives or big events that happened in their lives. In our case, Hillel's teaching, be among the students of Aaron, love peace and pursue peace, love the creations and draw them closer to the Torah, is connected to a story told in the Talmud about Hillel's life in general. There's many stories about non-Jews who came to Hillel to convert, but one of them was a story when a non-Jew came to Hillel and asked to be converted on the condition that you appoint me to be the high priest. Hillel responded to him with warmth and friendliness. After Shammai kicked him away. He said, you belong in the Meshuggah house. You're not like, we're going to convert you and you're going to become the high priest. That's not the way it works. He sent him flying. He chased him out with his yardstick. Quite literally. Source number 3 is a long one. I'll read it. There was another incident involving a Gentile who came, another incident, right? So that means that we're talking about a lot of incidents of Gentiles who came before Shammai and said to him, they all had these weird conditions. So, convert me on condition that you teach me the entire Torah while I am standing on one foot. What would you respond? Shammai pushed him away with the builder's measuring stick that he was holding in his hand. Page number 8, that same Gentile came before Hillel. Hillel converted him and said to him, that which is hateful to you, do not do to another. That's where the famous statement comes from. He said, that's the entirety of the Torah. The rest is commentary. Go and study. And then he did. There was another incident involving a Gentile who was passing behind the study hall and heard the voice of a teacher who was teaching Torah to his students and reciting the verse. These are the garments which they shall make, a breastplate and an ephod and a robe and a tunic of checkered work, a mitre and a girdle. The Gentile said, who are these garments designated for? The student said to him, for the high priest. He had a good taste for fashion, and the Gentile said to himself, I will go and convert, so they will install me as high priest. He came before Shammai and said to him, convert me on condition that you will install me as high priest. Shammai pushed him away with the measuring stick he was holding in his hand. He came before Hillel, and Hillel converted him. Hillel said to the convert, is it not the way of the world that only one who knows the protocols of royalty is appointed as king? Go learn the royal protocols by engaging in the Torah study. He went and read the Torah. When he read the verse that says, and the common man who draws near shall be put to death, the convert said to Hillel, with regard whom is the verse speaking? If a non-Kohen will come to do the service. And Hillel said to him, even with regard to David, king of Israel. The convert reasoned an a fortiori inference himself. We've learned that term a fortiori many times in the Talmud classes. If the Jewish people are called God's children, and due to the love that God loved them, he called them Israel, my son, my firstborn, and nevertheless about them it is written that the common man who draws near shall be put to death. A convert who came without merit, with nothing more than his staff and his traveling bag, all the more so that this applies to him as well. You see, he's already making deductions. The conversion worked on him. You know the story of the guy who asked the Jewish person next to him, how is it that you guys are so smart? He says, very simple. We eat herring. That's how we get so smart. So he said, okay, give me a herring. He gives him a herring. He says, okay, $10 for the piece of herring. He says, $10 for the piece of herring? I could have gone to the store and bought all 5 containers for $10. He says, you see, it's working. Page number 9.
So I would have said to the guy, convert me, get him my foot, right? I would have told him, who needs you? Go away. What makes you think we want you?
It's basically what Shammai said. The whole Torah on one foot. Do you see these volumes? And at those times, it wasn't even written down. It was just a lifetime of learning to amass that knowledge. You couldn't even read it from a book. There were no books. This was at the time of the Mishnah. The Mishnah hadn't yet been written down.
Not on scrolls or anything?
Not even on scrolls. No manuscript. The teachers had small notes that they would write to keep for themselves. There was a ban against writing down the oral tradition. The oral tradition must be taught orally. So you have to spend your entire life by a teacher learning Torah. The convert then came back to Shammai and told him that he retracts his demand to be appointed high priest, saying, am I at all worthy to become the high priest? Is it not written in the Torah, and the common man that draws near shall be put to death? He came before Hillel and said to him, Hillel the patient, may blessing rest upon your head as you brought me under the wings of the divine presence. In other words, he came to Shammai and said, who needs you? Like, you could have just told me. But he came to Hillel and he said, thank you for making me Jewish and bringing me into the fold of the covenant. Now I am have that connection to Hashem that I would never have had otherwise if you would have just answered me, no, you can't be the high priest. Eventually, these 3 converts gathered together in one place. And they said, Shammai's impatience sought to drive us from the world. Hillel's patience brought us beneath the wings of the divine presence. This is the meaning, to love the creations and draw them closer to the Torah. Hillel used the word creations, connoting people who possess no apparent value other than being God's creations. So we're talking to people who were in a very low stature. Not only were they not Jewish people, but they also did not have any inherent value on their own. They were like the the Palestinians of today. They were the people who were like nobody wanted. In our context, this refers to a person who had not yet converted. Hillel still approached such a person warmly and drew him close, bringing them closer to the Torah. So we see that his statement to be kind and loving to everyone wasn't just a statement. This was how he lived his life. And we're going to see in a minute another even crazier story. Hillel is called Hillel the Babylonian because he came from Babylonia. After sending from Babylonia to the land of Israel, he became the leader of the Jewish people. Regarding his appointment as Nasi, the Talmud relates. We've learned this before, so we'll go through it quickly. The sages taught, page 10, source 4, the sages taught in a Brisa, this law was forgotten by the sons of Becerra, who were the leading clan of the Jewish people at the time. The 14th of Nisan once occurred on Shabbat, and they forgot and did not know whether the Paschal Lamb overrides Shabbat. They said, is there any person who knows whether the Paschal Lamb overrides Shabbat or not? People said to them, there is a certain man in Jerusalem who came up from Babylonia, and his name is Hillel the Babylonian. At one point, he served the two most eminent scholars of the generation, Shemaiah and Avtalion, and he certainly knows whether the Paschal Lamb would override Shabbat or not. The sons of Becerra sent messengers and called for him. They said to him, do you know whether or not the Paschal Lamb overrides Shabbat or not? He said to them, do we only have one Paschal Lamb during the year that overrides Shabbat? Don't we have many more than 200 Paschal Lambs during the year, which is the communal sacrifices that override Shabbat? After Hillel brought these proofs, they immediately seated him at the head and appointed him as the Nasi, the leader over them, and he expounded on the laws of Passover that entire day. In the course of his teachings, he started to rebuke them. He said to them, what caused this to happen to you, that I should have to come up from Babylonia and become the leader over you? It was your laziness that you did not serve the two most eminent scholars of the generation living in Israel, Shemaiah and Avtalion. They said to Hillel, our teacher, if one forgot and did not bring a knife on the eve of Shabbat and cannot slaughter his Paschal lamb, what is the law? Since he could have brought the knife before Shabbat, he cannot bring it on Shabbat. But what should he do in this situation? If he doesn't have a knife, he can't slaughter the lamb. He said to them, I once heard this law from my teachers, but I forgot it. So because he got angry at them, he forgot the law. But leave it to the Jewish people. If they are not prophets to whom God has revealed his secrets, they are the sons of prophets and will certainly do the right thing on their own. So the next day, they went to see what was going on. The next day on Shabbat, that was the eve of Passover, one whose Paschal offering was a lamb took the knife and stuck it in the wool of the lamb. And one whose Paschal offering was a goat, which does not have wool, stuck it between his horns. Hillel saw the incident and remembered the halacha that he had once learned and said, this is the tradition that I received from the mouths of Shemaiah and Avtalion. Hillel displayed a measure of pride towards the Bnei Becerra. This was certainly not arrogance in the full sense, God forbid, but in a subtle form, a result of him feeling the greatness of the merit that it brought to the Jewish people by enabling them to offer the Passover sacrifice. As a result, he was punished with forgetting the law. So here we have two contrasting qualities coexisting within Hillel. On the one hand, he had a complete mastery of the Torah, and because of that, he was appointed to be the Nasi, the leader of the Jewish people. This mastery can only be attained through the attitude of, may my soul be like dust to all, self-effacement. On the other hand, he had a subtle sense of pride over the Bnei Becerra, which stemmed from the fact that he came from Babylonia. Whether Babylonians are prideful? Let's see. Babylonia is related to the word balal, which means mixture and confusion. This reflects the nature of Torah study in Babylonia. As the sages say, he has made me dwell in darkness refers to the Talmud of Babylonia. Torah study in Babylonia was conducted in a mode of darkness, where the truth is not immediately visible. This results in extensive debate, back and forth argumentation, requiring, page 12, tremendous effort to arrive at a clear conclusion. The fact that the Jewish law follows the Babylonian Talmud, despite its association with darkness, is connected with the phrase, he had made me dwell. We settle in Babylonia even though a Jew's place as a holy nation is in the Holy Land, and we bring the divine presence there as well. Through this, the advantage of light emerging from the darkness is achieved, paralleling the broader idea of creating a dwelling place for God specifically within the lowest realms. In our context, when one is in the land of Israel, the land upon which the eyes of the Lord your God are constantly fixed, there is less need to ward against pride. But when one is in Babylonia, in a state of he has made me dwell in the darkness itself makes such warnings necessary. Following the episode mentioned above in Hillel's life, Hillel saying one who seeks a name loses his name serves as a warning against pride, as will be explained below. That is why specifically stated in Aramaic, because the warning is especially necessary in Babylonia. So the Rebbe is saying, look what happened to Hillel when he came up from Babylonia and he was appointed to be the head, the leader of the Jewish people. The fact that he was from Babylonia caused him to be, in a certain sense, a little bit arrogant, which ended up making him forget the law. Therefore, he wrote this teaching in Aramaic because it's specifically applicable to the Babylonians, which is where they spoke Aramaic. And he was telling the Aramaeans, don't get too caught up with yourself because it's no good. At the bottom of page 12, guarding against pride, one who advances his name. The Aramaic word used here for advancing the God can imply drawing downwards or descending. Thus, one who advances his name, destroys his name, teaches that although there must be a descent into Babylonia, one must be careful not to descend too far. That is, one must avoid developing a sense of ego and self-importance. Ego is the lowest form of descent, separating a person, God forbid, from the awareness of the connection, page 13, to the giver of the Torah, which requires an attitude of self-effacement. Ego can cause destroying his name, alluding to losing the awareness of Torah as the names of God, which would be the holiness of the Torah. So the simple meaning of this Mishnah is that if anyone is seeking prominence, if someone is seeking prominence for the sake of authority, then he will lose his name, meaning he will lose his honor, he will lose his reputation. The way the Rebbe is translating this on a deeper dimension, a deeper level, is someone who's studying Torah in order to get honor loses the aspect of the Torah that the Torah is the names of God. New Torah insights without fear of pride. Thank you very much about it. When one who does not increase diminishes. Since we are warned about the descent into egotism, is that even a word? Egotism?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One might think it preferable to avoid producing new Torah insights, as this is something that could lead to a feeling of self-importance. Rather, perhaps we should simply review what we have already learned, as this is also a valid form of Torah study. To counter this, the teaching continues, one who does not increase diminishes. If you do not add to your Torah knowledge by understanding everything that you have until now and extrapolating that to novel ideas, then he will diminish, as the Alter Rebbe rules in the laws of Torah study. Every soul, for its own completion, must engage in all areas of Torah according to its capacity, to understand and to know. From this, it follows that when a person is capable of developing new Torah insights, they are obligated to labor and produce them. So much so that whoever is capable of understanding and knowing much but is lazy must return in a reincarnation until he understands and attains everything his soul is capable of attaining, according to his unique portion in the Torah. As expressed in our prayers, where we say, grant us our portion in your Torah. That's a good question. The real answer is that you got to learn as much as you can. The funny story is, there was a friend of mine, his grandfather was a very holy man, but unfortunately in his old age he had dementia. And so sometimes he would take out his talents and tefillin to pray even 2 or 3 times a day. And so let's say it would be he'd daven at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then at 10 o'clock he'd start putting on his tefillin again. And his kids would say to him, Daddy, you already prayed. And he would say, prayers that we don't remember is not called a prayer. So he would say. I wish upon us all to be of clear and lucid mind till the day we go. Okay, page 14. One who does not teach Torah is deserving of death. That's harsh. Even when a person studies Torah and works hard to develop new insights and deepen his learning, he may still think it preferable to avoid teaching others so as not to risk becoming prideful because of his role as a teacher. The Mishnah counters this by saying one who does not teach is deserving of death. This parallels the stages of this parallels the saying of the sages. Mighty are all who are slain. This refers to a Torah scholar qualified to issue rulings who refrains from doing so. Ruling cautiously. Okay, so before we get to ruling cautiously, what this is talking to a person who doesn't want to be a teacher because he says, if I'm going to teach Torah, then I'm going to become arrogant. And so therefore Hillel tells him, you'll be better off becoming arrogant because of teaching, because at least then you will have taught. But if you hold all your Torah teaching to yourself, then you're culpable for death for holding back all of your knowledge. Ruling cautiously.
One doesn't feel qualified. What if one doesn't feel qualified?
It doesn't feel qualified or isn't qualified?
Well,
I'm not qualified, so.
yeah, I mean, I'm not qualified to
So
teach.
I can't really teach them.
Yeah.
I know if someone asks me a question on Torah, I always say my standard, I'm not an expert on Torah, I can't really comment. If you like, I could ask the rabbi, because I don't think they,
Yeah, I don't want to give false information.
but someone like you can.
I'm not necessarily qualified to teach everything.
No, but
You're
you
qualified.
know, but
Torah.
you're teaching a course right now, you feel that, you feel.
I mean, you're not qualified to
that.
teach advanced calculus, but you're qualified to Torah.
Teach Torah. But I'm not an expert on all Torah subject matters.
That's okay, you can say that, you can say that.
So-
I'm not too sure I can get back with you, you have the
Like,
ability to do it.
okay, what? So are you saying that I should teach Torah to people? Either,
First of all, absolutely yes. Second of all, teach the Torah that you know. So the Rebbe's stance was very strongly that you should teach. Everyone should be a teacher. Teach what you know. Don't teach things that you don't know.
yeah, well, that's kind of what the
So the Rebbe's
educational system is like in America. Yeah, we need someone to teach physics. Well, you got a degree in English literature? Close enough.
It's like the comedy routine about the spirit flight.
What?
The comedy routine about the spirit flight.
Oh, yeah.
Does anyone have a doctor or whatever? Like they should have known, no doctor was flying spirit. And they like dropping the barge. Did anyone dress up as a nurse for Halloween? Yeah, so we're not talking about that. But the Rebbe said, even if you only know the first letter of the alphabet, you know what an aleph is, teach someone that aleph. So I'm sure, it could be that you don't know the Hebrew alphabet anymore, but I'm sure there are other things that are substantial, that are consequential, that you've learned. There are teachings that you could share with others. Right? Okay. So don't start teaching a course on the deeper meaning of kosher if you haven't yet studied that. But if you have studied that, go ahead, teach. Meaning someone who is not qualified to teach and teaches is probably worse than someone who is qualified to teach and doesn't teach. Because teaching bad information, I guess it's a toss-up, but teaching bad information is not good, but not teaching good information is also not good. But anything that you do know, sorry, teaching bad information is worse. Okay,
Because then the person learns bad information.
and they think that they know.
And yeah, whereas
Okay.
if you don't teach at all, at least the person,
Understands
the
that they
student
don't know.
says, well, I don't know, so he's still open to learning.
I'll agree with you on that. But what you do know, share with others. Ruling cautiously. One who makes use of the crown shall perish. The crown refers to the crown of Torah, specifically the study of Jewish law, as explained in Tanya. We are being told that both personal study as well as teaching others should include the crown of the Torah practical halachic rulings. However, this requires special caution, so that one not use it for personal honor or self-importance. 4, one who makes use of the crown shall perish, means that such a person will lose the elevated quality associated with studying and teaching Jewish law, the crown of Torah, meaning that when you're teaching theory, when you're teaching Jewish theory, it's very important to make sure that you're getting everything right. But when you're teaching Jewish law, it's even more important that you're teaching it for the sake of everyone understanding the law and not for the sake of furthering your own agenda or your own importance, because a mistake in the law is much more dangerous than a mistake in the theory. And then you might lose all of your understanding of Torah. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? Hillel's third teaching, if I am not for myself. So that whole Aramaic teaching was coming to remind the Babylonians not to be arrogant. Yes, you may have learned a lot of Torah and you may be very important, but don't get too arrogant, because arrogance will ruin your entire career. Hillel's third teaching, if I am not for myself, who will be for me, is connected with a statement in the Talmud. It was stated about Hillel the elder that when he rejoiced during the water drawing celebration, he would say, if I am here, everyone is here. And if I am not here, who is here? That's the way to end. The point is that every person should view themselves as the celebration is happening entirely for me. Don't come late and leave in middle. Understand that the whole purpose of this celebration might be just for some inspiration that you will gain from it. So there we have it. The first part was taught. It was a Mishnah reminding us about Hillel's modus operandi, that his entire outlook on Torah was to love and bring people in, whether it made sense or not. He was loving and he showed them the way, and then they eventually understood on their own. The second teaching was a teaching to remind people of Babylon, not to get caught up in their arrogance, and that's connected with a time where he once showed a certain level of pride or higher than thou attitude towards the rabbis, and that ended up causing him to forget what the law was. And then finally, the last Mishnah was, if I am not for me, who will be for me? And that is connected to what he would say by the water drawing festival, a reminder that in life, things are important, and seize the moment as it comes. Don't push it off to later. Be present where you are and grab as many mitzvahs as you can. Joan and Susie, great to have you here, or is it just Susie today?
Johnny's in and out. I'm here.
Okay.
She's in the room, so she comes in.
Next
and out.
Shabbos, which is going to be June 5th and 6th. So not this Shabbos, next Shabbos. We're going to be having a big Shabbat for my mom's 5th yard site. We'll be starting probably around 6:30 or 7 o'clock. So look out for your emails on that. I don't have the final details there. So that'll be Friday night, a big Shabbat dinner, and then Shabbat morning. If you want to just stop in and give your wishes, or if you can't make it, I understand. But everyone who can be there, would love to see you there. Friday night and Shabbat, June 5th and 6th. Also, we will be doing a program for the 3rd of Tammuz. I forgot what day we said it was. The 19th, the 18th? Somewhere around the 18th or 19th, somewhere in that week, we'll be doing something for marking the Rebbe's yard site and his impact on us over here, as well as Jewry throughout the world. And also today and tomorrow, we're still working on the Chai Club. I want to give a very special thank you to everyone who is involved in the monthly giving. And this is an opportunity if anyone else would like to get involved. Wishing you all a wonderful week, and we'll see you guys Tuesday, God willing.
Bye, Rob.